Hey YouTube, it's Dimitri, and today we're going to talk about how the job application process works. So this is typically a question I get, and I explain it to professionals and students, and they always act kind of surprised, but this is more or less how the process works. So you go online and you find a job and you fill out the application and you hit submit. So the question is, what happens after that? So typically, for big corporations at least, the application gets submitted, it goes to a server, and then typically corporations use software that filter resumes. The reason they do this is because for a job application, a lot of times you can get hundreds, and if they're like big corporations, I'm sure even thousands of job applicants just for one job. And so the thing is no one has time to sort through, for example, even like 200 resumes for one job, when these big corporations might be hiring for, I don't know, say 10, 20 jobs consistently at a time. And then you think 10 or 20 jobs times, say, 200 applications, which is probably more like 300 or 400 applications for a job. And then it really gets to be time consuming and you have to hire a lot of HR professionals. At the end of the day, it's costly for businesses to hire, which already adds to the cost they currently have of hiring people. And so they use this software to filter out the resumes. And so what happens, you submit your resume, it goes to this server, it goes through a software, and HR sets up more or less a filter for these resumes. So for example, do you have a 4-year degree? Yes or no? If you do, you pass, right? And then if you don't, you might get weeded out. They might have other questions on the job applications, such as how many years experience do you have? And then you'd select from like a drop-down menu, 10 years, 7 years, 6 years, 20 plus or something. And the reason is because they're looking for someone, for example, in the job description that says 5+ years. So the filter will take anybody with 5 years or more, keep them, and it will discard the rest of them. So let's say 100 people applied for this job, and then the program filters out, say, 80 resumes. So now you're down to 20. 20 is definitely more manageable. So you submit the resume, which is step 1. Step 2 is it goes through the filter and it filters out the resumes. Step 3 is typically it goes to an HR professional. So an HR professional sorts through the resumes and tries to find which candidates would be the best fit for the job based on what the hiring manager has given them, which I'll put a little card up here. I have a video on how to pass the HR interview. So HR interviews, say, 10 of these candidates, and they narrow it down to, say, 6 of them that they think would be a good fit for the job. Once you pass that HR interview, which is the 3rd step, then typically you'll go on to the 4th step, which is the hiring manager. So now the hiring manager is interviewing 6 people. They will interview you typically over the phone and see if you're a good fit, and that might narrow it down from, say, 6 down to, say, like 3 candidates. And then these 3 candidates might have an in-person interview, which would be like the 5th step. And then after that, they would select the final candidate, make a job offer. If that person rejects the job offer, they might either start all the way back over at the beginning, or they might come somewhere in the middle and say maybe there was 3 people they interviewed. They gave an offer to one, they turned it down. So then maybe they might pick the second best person. And that's basically how the job application process works. So you submit online, then it goes to a computer that filters it, then it goes to an HR professional, then it goes to a hiring manager, and then if you pass that, hopefully they make you a final offer. So why is this important to understand? How does this help you as a job applicant? Well, this debunks one of the myths, which is more or less that people always say you need to know somebody, which is definitely true. But the reason it's a myth is that a lot of people assume if you know somebody, they just hand you the job. Like, oh, I'm applying for a senior vice president position at a bank. And maybe I have no qualifications, no skills, but I know them, so they hire me. That's not how it works. So the way it really works and why this is important to network to increase your odds of getting a job is that when you have the process, it's nice if you can skip part of the steps. So for example, you might be a perfect candidate. You might have filled something out, maybe not as accurate as possible, or maybe you'd be a great fit for the job, but the problem is maybe you got filtered out at the computer, or maybe you get filtered out at the HR step, right? So the key is how do you get around that? The first one is if you know somebody in a corporation and they can add you as kind of like a referral, that might actually pass by the computer filtering process. And so that person can either submit your resume online to HR and it might pass the filter, it might not. The next best thing is if you actually personally know somebody who knows the hiring manager, or you know the hiring manager, is being able to get your resume in front of them personally, because then you would skip the computer, you'd skip the HR professional, and you go right to the hiring manager process, which would definitely increase your odds of getting the job. That being said, the hiring manager still has a responsibility to hire good quality employees. Their name is on the line, and so people always assume, especially I guess in finance, which people think is like a corrupt world, but it's not. There's only a few bad apples here and there. But in general, the thing is that they are still responsible for results. They're still responsible for getting stuff done. They still have to report to people. And so their name is on the line, so they need to hire the best candidates possible. But that being said, it does help if you know somebody. So definitely network, try to get your name out there, try to talk to people in the industry. When you're looking for a job, reach out and talk to people and tell them, I'm looking for a job. I'm looking to do X, Y, and Z. Do you know anyone? And if they do, sometimes you can use that to your advantage to get around the system. So you might not have to go through the computer filter. You might not have to go through HR, but you can get right in front of the hiring manager. All right, so here is a basic diagram of what we just discussed. It shows each step, and then in red, it will show you the number of applicants that are currently left during that step. So that's more or less the process of how a job application works and how you need to get through a series of hurdles to get to that final decision. I hope you guys find this helpful. If you like my videos, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and as always, until next time. Thanks for watching my video. If you find it helpful, please like, share, and subscribe.